What's the cringiest thing you've ever done in the pursuit of love? My plan was to pretend to fall, but actually save myself right before to catch her attention and look cool. Well, sometimes things don't go as planned, and that's why I have a scar on my hip. I was young. Called crush's phone every 60 seconds for an hour, no answer, repeat. I figured she'd pick up once she got home, and I wanted to talk to her ASAP. Unfortunately, she was on the phone with someone else the entire time, getting the "you have another call" notifications about incoming calls, just wasn't responding to them. After about the 60th time she picked up and screamed "what?" And I tried to worm out of it like it wasn't me that had just called her over and over and over. She didn't buy it, of course. This one still keeps me up at night 30 years later. In kindergarten, I proposed to my crush by yelling across the playground. Didn't get an answer back. In high school, I got some presents for my different crush's birthday, barely talked to her in person because I was painfully shy, but always talked to her on AIM, went up to her awkwardly with a red face, gave her the presents, said happy birthday, and walked away immediately out of sheer embarrassment. She told me later she liked the gifts. Moved to Australia. When I was 12 I had a crush on a girl in my grade school. During our school's 7th grade dance, I didn't realize that as I was trying to psych myself up to ask her to dance, I was actually following her around, and she was very aware of it. She had to ask another kid to tell me to stop following her around and that I was being creepy. I ended up marrying another girl from my grade school class, and we all got together like 20 years later at a bar, and I got to apologize and sort of explain what I was trying to do. I used to pole dance on a lamppost outside a boy's house when I was 13. I was very little. I was at a playground on the swings next to this girl I had a crush on. My dad just gave me an underdog, super duper swing boost for those who aren't familiar, and I got the best idea. I turned to the girl next to me, and in the best baddest voice my prepubescent self could manage, I said, "Watch this." I let go of the chains hoping to be able to balance, but instead I shot off backwards like a rocket and immediately blacked out. Ended up being dragged back home in a wagon and woke up on the couch. I had a crush freshman year of high school. We always talked on Mispus but hardly in person, even though we spent a lot of time together, and I would walk her to 6th period drama class. One day I felt like I hadn't spent enough time with her, so I went into the classroom. I figured there was so many students, probably 40 to 60 kids, the teacher wouldn't notice. So there I am sitting in the classroom, not even next to her. It was a poorly thought out plan. After about 30 minutes the teacher calls me out. Something like, "Excuse me, who are you? I noticed you since the beginning of class." Now the entire class is staring at me in anticipation for my response. I quietly mumble I was just interested to see what you guys do in drama class, to which she loudly responds, "I'm sorry, you're going to have to speak up." Seconds feel like an eternity with everyone's eyes on me. One student repeats what I said, but in the most awkward way possible. While everyone is still looking at me, I just run out of the classroom. It's been 11 years and this still haunts me. In 7th grade I bought chocolate for all my friends on Valentine's Day. I bought an extra one on purpose to give to my crush and play it off as having an extra one and that it wasn't specifically for them. I forgot about one of my friends and they asked for it when I said, "Oh look, there's one more, haha, who wants it?" I pretended like I didn't hear him and gave it to my crush. He told me he was allergic to chocolate and gave it back to me. I gave it to the forgotten friend. My crush later ate chocolate from another girl whom also crushes on him. I know because they ended up dating. The guy friend I neglected ended up revealing his feelings to me the same day but didn't want to make a move because of how focused I was on my crush. I ended up having a lonely day and a cringe-worthy memory to look back on. Obligatory not me but my ex. I was 13 and had been dating a fellow classmate for a year. Valentine's Day rolls around and he's like, "I got you something, it was so expensive, I think you'll like it." I'm already cringing because I was a poor kid and hated anything expensive or extravagant. So a week before I eventually ask him when I work up the courage, "What is it? What's the present?" "A fucking limo." Yeah, he hired a limo with his spare money, £180 I think. His family gave him £90 a month. It got to my house and there I am in my cringy goth dress and fishnet gloves. My mother was gushing. The neighbors were whispering. I practically ran into the limo. Overall, I'm glad I experienced it. It was a sweet gesture. And a good thing to experience. But yeah. I'll always remember how cringy I found it. I felt like a right dick for being so embarrassed, but at least I never let him know. Oh, and I got pizza and white roses sprayed black. I read gay fan fiction to a girl, cause she couldn't sleep. Still one of my funniest memories of all time. In 12th grade I had a huge crush on this guy in one of my classes. I knew his favorite book and movie was Fight Club, so I googled everything about it, along with watching the movie. On Valentine's Day, I sent him a card that said I want to have your abortion and gave him my phone number. Back in my Guild Wars 1 days I drew a heart by dropping a few hundred gold coin bags in an instance I opened privately, recorded it with my trial version of Fraps, edited it with Windows Movie Maker, put a SUM41 song in it, uploaded it publicly on YouTube, and send the link via MSN Messenger to my girlfriend. She didn't know what Guild Wars is or what I am doing there. We were 12/13ths or something like that. I got a rose with a message on it and gave it to my crush at the time. I don't even remember what the message said, but after that she went from being friendly to kind of cold. I dodged a bullet though because it turned out that she was kind of nasty on the inside and made fun of me for liking her. Gave the girl a copy of Nickelback's Far Away in hopes that expressing passion and desire through Chad Kroger's chocolate bars would be enough to avoid making any awkward confessions myself. Found it a week later at my aunt's house with no explanation. Definitely still causes me a cold sweat from time to time. When I was 11 I tried hitting on a grocery store cashier. In 4th grade, we had a celebrity day where we would dress up as celebrities and set up like a wax museum. Parents and other teachers would come and could hear a little spiel we had prepared about our celebrity. Had a crush on a girl named Allison, so naturally, I dressed up as NASCAR driver Bobby Allison. Full jacket and helmet and all. Looking back, I can't believe that I thought this was a good idea. Edit. Spelling. Wrote anonymous poetry and hid it in a girl's textbooks. For 6 months. Brooding and hormonal 13-years-old me thought it was the most romantic and deep piece of literary work to grace our century. Declarations of love backdropped against Gothic iconography, like Bram Stoker's Wet Dreams. To make matters worse, my handwriting was, and still is, awful, bearing a closer resemblance to cuneiform than English. That poor girl must have thought she was being stalked by the bastard love child of Anton LaVey and the Zodiac Killer. I was 17 and head over heels for a girl, but unfortunately for me I'd put myself firmly in her friendzone by being a stereotypical Nissa without the name calling her dick pics though. The signs that she didn't like me were all there. She called me her gay best friend, and I'd drop everything to spend time with her. I confessed my love for her one night when a few of us were out for dinner and drinks. She knew I fancied her, but wasn't interested, which broke my heart. I ended up spending most of the night awkwardly sitting at the bar getting drink after drink for myself and offering to buy her drinks, which she declined. The bartender was an old friend. Eventually we left and I asked her if she'd changed her mind after seeing what connections I had. She said no. I wanted to prove I was a badass, plus I was hurting inside, so I kept jumping into hedges or falling face-first onto the pavement on purpose to try and impress her. It went about as well as you could expect. We stayed friends for a bit after that but haven't spoken in years now. I was a cringy fuck then. Asked her out, it failed. Sent my crush a letter and kissed it with lipstick on. He was out to let everyone know about it. So embarrassing. He thought his ex had sent it, so I was never caught. I made some mixed CDs in the early 2000s to express my feelings to my girlfriend. I may have even left them as a surprise under her windshield wiper at her job. When I was little, probably 5th grade, I had a crush. Let's name her Sydney. So throughout the school year we were really good friends. We moved up to 6th grade and luckily went to the same school. I started to like her because it seemed she always gave me good luck. She was also super pretty. You was really into music around that time, you probably know where this is going, and I was really good at singing. In my old school, we had half-year through parties. And I thought that was the perfect time to do it. I wrote a love song a few days prior to the party day. Then went to school. I had the paper with the song folded up in my pocket, and when the party started I offered her some of my chips. Then I sat her down and started singing. Literally everyone stopped talking and it was just me singing. When I was done, she clapped, some laughed and some clapped. Later that day at the end of school when we walked home, she expressed that my singing was shit. But she loves the way I had so much courage and dignity to go and sing to her in front of everyone. We decided we should start dating. I also had my first kiss with her. This was 3 years ago, and I was in the 9th grade. There was this girl I had a huge crush on immediately after I met her. I had only known her for about 2 months, and I decided to ask her out. But I didn't have any classes with her other than lunch, where we sat with all of our friends. I didn't want to ask her out at lunch because my other friends would have made fun of me if she rejected me. So I decided to do the worst thing possible. Do not ever do this if you are asking a girl out for the FITST time. I asked her out over text. Big mistake. I sent this huge text with like all of the feelings I've ever felt for her, and it took me like 10 minutes to type. She was at a dancing class with all of her friends and apparently taking selfies with them when she got the message. So her friend takes her phone and is like, "OORE 800,700 likes you," and then I guess she was like, "Nah, he's just joking," and then her friend said okay, then shut him down, so she did. I didn't know this part at the time, and she responds with, "Why would you say all this? I don't even know you that well." And I was like so depressed for that whole night. And then she apologized the next day telling me this other information, but she really only wanted to be friends. Thankfully the day this happened was on a Friday, so I had a whole weekend to be depressed before I went back to school. I probably would have skipped a day had it been midweek or something because I was that depressed. I cried. I never cry, ever. It was terrible. We had a long talk about it, and again, we had no classes together, so we hung out after school and talked about it. Eventually, about a few months later, we got over it and we started dating. Still dating to this day. But I wish I just asked her out at lunch because she probably would have said yes and I could have avoided the whole being depressed crying thing. Woo boy. I told her I had my eye on her. Then I realized the next step was asking permission to date her, and decided I wasn't about that life. I was so embarrassed that I ghosted. I still cringe today. I was such a loser. Found out recently she's dying of cancer in her mid-30s, so there's that to make it worse. I literally burned myself. I didn't move while burning so she could watch me how much I love her. I was wearing a tank top and had leather jacket on it. The leather was fake and cheap. And there was nothing between my skin and the leather. Jacked stick to my body. I burnt my chin's right side. When she just sighed and closed the window, I realized how bad I fucked up. I put out the fire for like 5 minutes after burning myself. When I tried to take the jacket off, I realized that it was going to hurt. I wrote a heartfelt letter after I broke up with her. Whenever I think about, I want to shrivel up under something. I wrote a girl a poem confessing my attraction and asking her out. Now, to be fair, I had my more socially astute sister proofread it first to make sure I wasn't doing something stupid. She transferred out of the 2 classes we had together and told me never to talk to her again. She avoided me for the next 2 years, then I never saw her again. The classic MSN move whilst in school about 13-14 years ago. Ask a girl out, when they say no, tell them someone else used my computer when I left it for a second. Haha. So bad. In 6th grade, I intentionally mixed up a Rubik's Cube just so I could watch my crush solve it. He was really good at solving Rubik's Cubes. Okay. This happened almost 12 years ago. I am from India. I had a serious crush on this girl in my class. What did I decide to do? Consult a special astrologist to know whether the girl will ever love me back or not. The kicker is, this place is around 20 hours travel from my city. The journey involves overnight travel by train and bus and a couple of hours of waiting. It's so embarrassing to think about it that I haven't told anyone about this, including my wife. I still cringe thinking about it sometimes. In 4th grade, I overheard when my crush would be logging onto Club Penguin that night and where to find him, so I logged in and found him. He didn't know it was me, but I thought if through chatting I could get him to like me in the game, he would then like me in real life. So I kept saying I love you and putting up heart emotes until he did it back. Plan failed, he didn't like me back. I was 13 and liked a boy in my class. During quiet classwork time, the teacher would play popular music. At the time, You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift was all over the airwaves. When it came on once, I started mouthing the words to him from across the room, and literally everyone else in the class noticed this except him. Got some weird looks. He definitely knew I liked him and didn't like me back. Now, a decade later, based on social media, I definitely dodged a bullet there. But it gets lots of laughs during wine night with my friends, so my past embarrassment was worth this funny story. IMO. Lost a good GF in my early 20s, late 30s now, because I was insecure. She went out with her girls one night and said she would call around 11 to let me know what she was doing. She wasn't sure if she was going to stay a while or leave early and come see me. I was a night owl BTW. I probably called her nearly a dozen times by 2 a.m. I don't know why. I just got it in my head that she was being pursued by countless better looking and more successful guys than me. I was never like that with any of my other GFs. She was way out of my league IMO. That was also my first impression to her friends. They immediately convinced her I was clingy and just a rebound and to move on to someone better. She dumped me about 2 days later. That one still hurts and makes me cringe on how I acted. Always wonder how that one would have turned out had I not been like that.